Hello everyone, the topic of this webinar is learning English pronunciation the smart way. Who is this webinar for? Well, if you find yourself in one of the following situations, you will definitely benefit from it. You've been learning English for some time but still feel that you have a strong accent. You avoid speaking with native speakers because of your accent. You notice that when you speak English, people don't always understand you the first time. You have lost motivation to learn English because of your accent. You want to improve your listening skills in English. What will you learn after watching this webinar? First, you will learn the most effective strategies for English pronunciation. And second, you will learn how to choose the right learning materials. Okay, let's dive in. First, who am I and why should you listen to me in the first place? My name is Timur Baytukalov. I am the founder and the main developer of easypronunciation.com. I was born in Russia. Since 2008, I have lived in Canada. First, I lived in Quebec, and then later I moved to British Columbia. When I was in school, I learned English without much success. When I entered university to become a pharmacist, I started to learn French. It was a very interesting experience and it got me hooked on learning languages. By the time I moved to Canada, I already spoke English and French fluently and had passed several international language tests, including Japanese. I also learned Spanish and German. While learning all these different languages, I developed my own unique approach that has helped me get results quickly. In this webinar, I will teach you the basics of my approach and how you can learn languages quickly, including pronunciation. When I see how most people learn foreign languages in high schools, in colleges, or even in universities, pretty much everyone does it very slowly, as if they walk through the snow like this kitty. But it shouldn't be this way. I have always been interested in what prevents us from learning language effectively and how we can do it faster. In other words, how can one stop being a kitty in the snow and become this cheetah? One of the problems with language learning is that we use the wrong learning materials. Quite often we use complicated textbooks, dictionaries, and grammar references. While it may seem like these materials help us do something useful, in the end we ultimately realize that we have spent our time ineffectively. So what learning materials should we use when we learn a language? In order to answer this question, we need to first discuss how we perceive the world. We receive information from the outside world using three main representational systems: visual, we see; auditory, we hear; and kinesthetic, we feel. How is this connected to learning materials? Let's take textbooks, for example. When we use a textbook, we only use our visual system to receive information. When we listen to audio recordings, we only use our auditory system to get information. When we use video recordings, it's much better because we use both our visual and auditory systems. One of the most effective ways to learn a foreign language is through direct communication with a native speaker who is willing to help you. In this case, you can engage all three representational systems, and the amount of information entering your senses becomes much higher. Since people often start learning language using audio recordings, I want to discuss the cons of using audio recordings because it's not really the best way to go about it. One of the cons of audio recordings is that it is difficult to learn pronunciation. Only people with well-developed ears can easily imitate the native speakers. For example, people who are professional musicians are usually pretty good with language learning, as long as they are motivated. Unfortunately, most of us are not professional musicians, and learning pronunciation using only our ears is tough. Keep in mind that as young children learn a language, they constantly watch their parents pronounce words in order to imitate them. Another con of using audio recordings is that when you only listen to an audio recording, you don't always know what is being said. In order to understand, you need the translation. When you watch a video, quite often you can figure out what is going on, especially if there is some action on the screen. So what then should we use to learn a language? Video recordings or native speakers? Native speakers are obviously a great choice if you have access to native speakers in your daily life, or if you're able to find someone for language exchange. That's great. Use every chance to learn from them. If you do not know any native speakers or cannot find one, I suggest using video recordings as they have their own advantages. So what are the pros of video recordings? First, you can replay or pause the video. Unfortunately, you can't do this with a real person. If, while watching the video, you don't quite get something, you can rewind it and listen again. If you want to repeat something yourself while watching the video, you can pause it and repeat the phrase. With a real person, it's more complicated. Of course, you can ask him or her to repeat what they just said. However, if you start asking to repeat every single word, they may become annoyed. Another advantage of using video recording is that you can slow down the playback speed. Most computer players can do so without distorting the sound too much. Another good thing about video recording is that you can look up the meaning of a word in a dictionary. If your video has a transcript of all the dialogues and you want to know the meaning of some words, you can open a dictionary and look up the translation. By the way, when I learn a new language, I rarely use a dictionary. Instead, I speak with native speakers or watch video recordings and repeat the words and phrases a lot. It's only much later, if I still don't know the meaning of a particular word, that I may look it up in a dictionary. Another great thing about video recordings is that there's no stress. Unfortunately, when some people do language exchange or take lessons with a teacher, they feel uncomfortable. Often they may have mental blocks, which in turn prevents them from enjoying the process. When you use video recordings, you can get into a comfortable state of mind, which allows you to copy native speakers from the video and lets you absorb the new material and progress quickly. So what is the best video recording to use to learn a language? I created a list of my own requirements for good videos. I'll tell you right away, good videos are rare. That's why on easypronunciation.com we create videos that meet all these requirements, because all of them are very important. First, all actors in the video recordings should be native speakers. In some video courses they may show you a non-native speaker who comes to United States to learn English and speaks with a terrible accent. It is difficult to watch these videos and it is not something that you should imitate. Next requirement, if you're learning English, everything that is said in the videos should only be in English. In some videos they explain to you every little detail, every piece of grammar in your native language. However, this is not the best approach for learning a language, since you start thinking about the language rather than in the language. Our goal is to learn how to speak English, not how to explain English grammar or understand every single language pattern there is. Believe me, you can spend a lot of time analyzing a language, talking about its grammar and exception without any real progress. Our main goal is to quickly learn how to speak. The next requirement is that the video has a slow or medium speech rate. All actors in the video should have clear articulation. Another one is that the video should not have any background noise or music. The best videos have English subtitles, including phonetic transcription. Very soon I'll explain why phonetic transcription is extremely important, especially when you learn pronunciation. The last requirement is that the video contains the most frequently used words of the language that you learn. For myself, I divide language learning into several steps. The first step is to learn pronunciation. On this step, if you use videos, it is very helpful if the native speakers have been filmed from two different angles. This is a sample screenshot from the American English pronunciation course from our website. As you can see, the native speaker has been filmed from two angles, so you can see all the movements of the speaker's speech organs. The second step is to learn to speak in simple phrases. The goal of this step is to increase your vocabulary to 1000 words. If you use videos, it is helpful if there's a lot of action in the video, so you could figure out the meaning of a word or phrase by watching what is happening on the screen. Let's say a video has two people just standing and talking for an extended period of time. In this case, it is much harder to understand what is being said, and you would need a translation. To help with this, we started creating video lessons that meet this requirement. When you watch these video lessons, you can easily figure out the meaning of the phrase based on what is happening on the screen. For example, on this screenshot, the woman is lifting her head up, and you can hear, I lift my head up. But let's go back to the main topic, pronunciation. Some people may think, why do I need pronunciation? People seem to understand me anyway. From my own experience and from the experience of people who also know how to learn languages, I have realized that pronunciation is really the secret weapon that can help you accelerate your language learning. In other words, if you learn how to pronounce words correctly in the beginning of your journey, then learning new words and grammar patterns becomes really easy. If, for example, you're learning English but you have trouble remembering new words, my guess is that your pronunciation is not very good. After you train your speech organs, after you train your ears, learning new words becomes a piece of cake. So how can you learn pronunciation? First and foremost, regularly, ideally several times a day. For example, you can watch pronunciation videos in the morning for 20 minutes, then practice pronouncing these words when you commute or drive to your school or work. And in the evening, you can spend another 20 or 30 minutes watching videos and practicing. Remember, when little children learn a language, they usually babble something unintelligible the whole day, yet the whole time they are actually training their speech organs. The next thing that you should do is imitate what you hear. If you're going to read or listen about English pronunciation, then it is not the same thing as actually pronouncing English words with your own mouth. Another principle, you should do it in the right state. I discussed this in greater detail in my article, A Complete Guide to Language Learning. The right state will guarantee you success. If you think about other things or learn a language in a depressed state, you will not go very far. You should warm yourself up and activate both hemispheres. There are even special exercises and games that can help you do so. The next principle, the best way to learn pronunciation is to use video recordings or native speakers. This way you can see the movements of speech organs. And finally, a very important thing, you should engage all your senses, all the representational systems. I'll remind you, they are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. You may ask, why? Well, research shows that if someone remembers something very well, usually the same information is encoded in different representational systems. By the way, that's why people remember sex quite well. At the same time, you can remember how the person you had intimacy with looked like, what you told this person and what this person told you, and of course, there's a lot of pleasant physical sensations. All three systems are engaged, so you can remember the information very well. We can do the same thing when we learn pronunciation. We can store the same information in different systems. How do we engage all the systems? Obviously, you will use your ears when you learn pronunciation. How about the other two systems? Let's start with the kinesthetic system. First, you need to pronounce the word slowly. When we pronounce the word slowly, we have a chance to feel out what is happening with our speech organs, and we can realize what we are doing right and what we are doing wrong. One of the most common mistakes that people make when speaking English is that they pronounce the sound th very weakly. For example, they would pronounce the word think as think. There are two things you should do to correctly pronounce this sound. First, stick your tongue between your teeth and squeeze it very well. And second, engage your abdomen muscles. If you don't, there will not be enough air pressure and the sound will be weak. Go ahead, engage your abdomen muscles and make the sound very long. So we have to start paying attention to what is happening in our mouth and our body in order to improve our pronunciation. Next, how do we engage our visual system? The first thing, which I already mentioned, is to watch native speakers slowly pronounce the words. Sometimes a mirror can help. You can take a mirror and compare how your lips move compared to how the lips of the native speaker move. Another trick is to use phonetic transcription. Now let's talk about that. People who have mastered a lot of languages are called polyglots. Among all of the polyglots, there are people whom I call super polyglots. These people can learn how to speak a foreign language very, very quickly. One example of super polyglots is Paul Janulus. In the 80s, he was recognized by the Guinness Book of Records as someone who speaks 42 languages fluently. In order to pass this test, he needed to speak for 2 hours with a native speaker of each language. He actually applied for more languages, but he passed the test only for 42 languages. And this guy needed only 7 hours to start speaking a new language. They even documented it with video cameras. They brought in a woman who spoke a very rare language, and after 7 hours he was able to communicate with her. Paul was a genius. He used various strategies when he learned a new language. The one that is of utmost interest for us is how he learned pronunciation. Here's the trick. When he heard an unknown word, he imagined inside his head a visual representation of the phonetic transcription of this word. Later, when he needed to pronounce the word, he remembered this visual representation. So how can we use phonetic transcription? First, like I mentioned, it helps us remember the pronunciation of new words. As you know, there are not any strict pronunciation rules in the English language. So, if you see an unknown English word, you might not know how to pronounce it. Let's take the following 4 words: down, on, towards, knowledge. All these words have OW, but the 2 letters are pronounced differently in each word. Now, for example, when I learn a new language, recently I have been attracted to Cantonese, which is a Chinese dialect. What I do is I listen to the word while simultaneously looking at its phonetic transcription. When I work with a native speaker, I ask him to repeat the word and watch very carefully how his lips move. Then I repeat after him. You can do the same thing when you learn English. Using the videos from our website, listen to the same word several times, look at its phonetic transcription, create a visual image of this transcription inside your head, and then repeat after the native speaker while feeling out what is happening in your mouth. We use the following strategy to remember the word's pronunciation. We listen to the word, we pronounce the word, we feel what is happening inside our mouth, we look at the phonetic transcription and create a mental image of it inside our head. Later, when we need to say this word, we remember what was happening inside our mouth, we remember the mental image of the phonetic transcription, and we pronounce the word. This way we use our senses to their full potential and remember the pronunciation very well. Another great thing about phonetic transcription is that it can help you correct yourself when you're learning a language by yourself. It's especially helpful if your ears are not yet well developed and you don't have anyone that can correct wrong pronunciation. Think about how the English language sounded to you when you first started to learn it, like gibberish. If you were asked to write it down, it's likely you would use the same symbols to transcribe different sounds, especially since you cannot yet tell them apart. This is where phonetic transcription comes in handy. When you hear 2 sounds that are somewhat similar, but you see that the phonetic transcription uses 2 different symbols to represent them, it means that these 2 sounds are indeed different. Knowing this, when you listen to the recording, you can pay closer attention to these sounds and correct yourself, thus improving your pronunciation and listening skills at the same time. A long time ago, when I realized what a marvelous tool the phonetic transcription is, I learned a programming language and started creating tools that can convert text to phonetic transcription. At this moment, easypronunciation.com has phonetic converters for 9 languages, including English, American and British, French, Spanish, German, Japanese, Chinese, Italian, Portuguese, and Russian. Since you're listening to this webinar, you're most likely interested in English, but if you eventually decide you want to learn another language, we're happy to help. So how can these phonetic converters make your life easier? First, they can save you time. You will not need to look up each word in a dictionary. Instead, the phonetic converter can convert the whole text to phonetic transcription and show you how every word in your text is pronounced. Next, the converters show the phonetic transcription, which is more precise than dictionary transcriptions. Usually in dictionaries, the phonetic transcription is simplified. Sometimes this type of transcription is called phonemic. Let's take the following two words, kiss and kill. In order to write the precise phonetic transcription, we need additional phonetic symbols, which I suggest you learn, as they will help you improve your pronunciation. Let's take the sound k. There are two variants of this sound in English. One is not aspirated, like in the word quiet, while another one is aspirated, like in the word kiss. If you aspirate this sound when it needs to be aspirated, you will sound like a native and people will understand you better. Another sound which often causes problems is the sound t. In American English, for example, there are 4 variants of this sound. By the way, in dictionaries, the phonetic transcription uses the letter T for all of them. Today, to, water, certain. It's 4 different sounds, so you'll definitely want to spend some time practicing them, especially if you want to improve your pronunciation. Another great thing about our phonetic converters is that they have video recordings of a native speaker pronouncing the words. You already saw the screenshots. We have the recordings of 3,600 American English words. Since the native speaker in our video recordings is filmed from 2 angles, you can better understand how his speech organs move. Additionally, our videos have a slow playback option. When we created the videos, we used a special technology that allows the videos to be slowed down without distorting the sound. So you can decrease the playback speed by 50% and the native speaker will not speak like this. He will speak slowly and everything will sound natural. Another great thing about our videos is that we have recorded the modified word forms. This is something you will not find in any online dictionary. Take for example these words: opened, opens, books, does. We have videos for all these word forms. We used the frequency dictionary and recorded the most frequently used word forms in English. We have also used the same videos to create online pronunciation trainer that can help you practice all these sounds in American English. And by the way, it is absolutely free. You can start improving your pronunciation today. Our pronunciation training allows you to set the playback speed, the number of times you want each word to be repeated, and the pause length after each word, all of which lets you have ample time to repeat the word after the native speaker. And of course, all the videos have subtitles, including the phonetic transcription. Using the same videos, we also created a listening test. This listening test will help you learn how to discern similar sounds. Each time you start a new test, the website randomly takes 10 words from the database, lets you listen to the word, and then asks you which sound you heard. This way you can improve your listening skills. On our website, we also have American English Vocabulary Builder. It was developed mostly for beginners, however, it can be used even by advanced students if your goal is to improve your pronunciation. As I mentioned, the sooner you improve your pronunciation, the faster you can progress in English. All videos have subtitles in English and subtitles with phonetic transcription. When you first practice with them, I suggest you forget about how the words are spelled and instead use only phonetic transcription. The Vocabulary Builder has 2.5 hours of video. Now, what subscription plans do we have? We have 2 subscription plans. The first one is called Frequent User. Its price in the United States is $9.99 per month if you pay each month. We have original pricing, so the price in your country may be different. If you subscribe for 1 year, we will give you a 50% discount. So instead of paying $120, you will pay only $60. This plan includes access to all the audio recordings and all the phonetic converters. Without the subscription, only the first 50 characters of the text are converted. After reaching the limit, you'll have to wait an hour before using it again. Note that this plan does not include videos. Videos are included in the plan Polyglot. Creating videos is very difficult and time-consuming, so this plan is more expensive. It costs $19.99 per month. If you subscribe for 1 year, again, we'll give you a 50% discount. Instead of $240, you will pay only $120. This plan includes video recordings in 3 languages: French, American English, and Russian. This plan also includes access to vocabulary builders in 4 languages: French, Latin American Spanish, American English, and Russian. We already have more than 30,000 users. Our customer service responds very quickly. Quite often people suggest updates and we implement them. Another bonus, after you sign up, you will get access to my article, A Complete Guide to Language Learning, Part 1, Learning Pronunciation. It will be available in your profile after registration. In this article, you will find even more techniques that will help you learn English quickly. If you want to try the site out first, we have a free 7-day demo version. With the demo version, you will have access to all the video recordings on the website, in phonetic converters, and online listening tests. Thanks for watching. I hope this is helpful. Learning languages is extremely interesting and I will probably never stop doing it. I hope you will start enjoying this process as much as I do. I wish you all the best. Bye!